It's 1985 and Malcolm is 15 years old. Sherley Williams is teaching a course called Themes in African American Manhood. It's a course on the novel, but includes African American slave narratives as well, including the account by Frederick Douglass, narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, in which Douglass describes his acquisition of the ability to read as a kind of Promethean struggle that involves, in a certain kind of way, aspects of a trickster narrative. Although it's disguised in the sobriety of Douglas' voice. But clearly, Frederick Douglass has to deceive his way into literacy, because literacy is denied him from the very outset and has to be stolen in the same way that Prometheus had to steal fire from the Olympians in order to give it as a kind of gift to humanity, to light their way in the darkness and to warm their bodies in winter, in the deepest seasons of cold. To cook food with, to bake, and to serve as a kind of sign of the endurance of the spirit, a fire both inside and outside. Of what it means to be human, to carry the torch of the spirit and the history of the past from the present into the future, and to belong to change. In the same way that humanity belongs to the promises of time in the renewal of the seasons, some of which are instilled with fire, and some of which require fire added. It's 1985 and Malcolm is 15 years old. Sherley Williams is teaching a class called Themes in African American Manhood. It's 1967, and Sherley Williams is reading a book by William Styron called The Confessions of Nat Turner. in which the author exploits the historical record, ignores the facts of Turner's committed and loving relationship with his wife, in which the author, who is white, exploits the cultural myth of the African American fantasy of lust and desire, a threatening lust and desire for white women that has threatened African American men since the days of slavery, and has always loomed as a threat against the life of the African American man or boy, long before the murder of Emmett Till. The myth of such lust and fantasy has long provided the excuse for murdering African American men and boys. And as she reads the transmogrification presented in Styron's account of the life of Nat Turner, "3 years prior to the birth of her son, named for the significant and revolutionary genius of the civil rights leader Malcolm X, she considers the weight of the white imaginary and the toll that it takes on history and in Black lives, and wonders how such an account unimaginably could have ever received a Pulitzer Prize. It is 1986, and Sherley Williams is teaching a course called Literature and the Blues. And the blues is defined loosely and includes gospel music and includes jazz. And it includes an account of the structures of the blues and its ubiquitous metaphors, its origins and its development, its elaboration in Amiri Baraka's Blues People, its connection with writers and the lives of artists like Billie Holiday, but also her own work, her own poetry, and her novel. which has just been published. Dessa Rose. It's 1986, and I'm thinking about the account of Dessa Rose, who led a slave rebellion not so unlike Nat Turner's, and was sentenced to death for doing so. And I'm thinking about, as we discuss metaphors in a blues song by Bessie Smith in 1986, the scars left on Dessa Rose's back. That Sherley described so detailed. In such detail that they were easy to imagine, easy to picture. And how Dessa Rose's lover, in loving her history, included a love for those scars. And I was thinking and remembering that convergence of the lyrics in the Bessie Smith song and my memory of Sherley's writing and those scars, how much love it took for Sherley to both complete that work and continue in her work as a teacher to engage the struggle with those materials as they result in the consequences of our lives and the lives of our loved ones and the future of Malcolm, and how long that life and that love and that work of mothering and that body of love also converged with that spirit and that mind in which her teaching also became the embodiment of such a love and such an understanding of the significance and the weight of the way that we create and make, and why we create and make, and the depths from which we create and make. It's 2022. And Joe Rogan is defending his anecdote concerning his experience of watching a movie in a neighborhood that he refers to as largely African American. And the anecdote to him is funny. And the anecdote will make millions of dollars on its social media platform. Never mind that it produces racial stereotypes and alludes to repetitions and patterns of racial stereotypes that have always been used to justify lynchings and murders of men like Malcolm, because Malcolm is now a man. Nearly 52 years old. And has probably paid attention to the media descriptions of Rogan and the failure of Spotify to censor his discourse. No matter how racially offensive it is, and no matter how simply economically motivated it is, no matter how many lives will be lost by the lies spread. Because Malcolm is most certainly aware that it has always been the marginalized and oppressed writers, thinkers, poets, newscasters, and other purveyors and messengers of truth that have suffered the greatest and most significant censorships. Because truth has always been what is most threatening to power. It's 2022. And I'm thinking about 1999, and regretting my inability to say goodbye to Sherley Ann Williams. But questioning such regret because perhaps in not being able to say goodbye, the memory of who Sherley Ann Williams is persists in what can be done today and what we are doing right now with all of these memories of history and love and time.